Hi guys, ya sabes que Carlos to another episode of Dimitra's Dishes. Today we're making beef shawarma at home. It's a very popular fast food in Middle Eastern restaurants, or sometimes if you're lucky to have like a shawarma truck nearby. It's just so delicious, but you're gonna learn how easy it is to make at home. And the best part about it is that you can customize the flavors to suit your family's taste buds. There are certain things that my kids don't like in savory dishes, and we'll go over them later on. It's the best part of cooking, and it tastes so much more fresh and flavorful at home. I'm also gonna make some quick pickled red onions because it goes really well with this. Serve this over rice, over a salad, or even in pita bread. Let's get started. All right, so for this recipe, the best cut of meat is a beef ribeye, like ribeye steak, boneless steak is the best because it has just the perfect amount of fat marbled throughout it, and it's just gonna give you the most tender, juicy beef shawarma that you'll ever taste. But it does tend to be a little bit on the pricey side, so you don't have to use this because it is gonna be seasoned well anyway, so it is gonna have tons of flavor. You can definitely use something like a flank steak or a flap steak, which is much more cost effective. So I'm just gonna pile them on top of each other. If you have a Costco nearby, you are going to get a much better bang for your buck. So you can get it from there. All these supermarkets also are very cost effective. You know, look around and shop around. That's the best thing to do. What you're going to do is you're going to cut this meat into strips. You guys, it even slices so easily. It's like butter, so soft, so tender. It's my favorite cut of beef. And of course, you could do this with lamb too. Okay, so I'm just gonna put it all in the same bowl that it was in. This is a pie plate actually, and set it aside. And I like to add an onion to it as well. It just cooks along with the meat and gives it so much flavor. And it's also gonna sit marinated with the meat, so it's gonna release its flavor and just make it even more tender and flavorful and delicious. So I'm just gonna cut this into slices. Okay, and I'm not going to put it in the meat just yet because we're going to marinate it. But before we do that, I'm going to quickly wash my hands to get that meat off of them. You don't want to cross-contaminate and get bacteria in your food. I also washed my knife just so that way we could be extra safe. So we're going to start off with the juice of half a lemon. You could use a whole lemon too, and you know I will. Where the recipe calls for 1.5 pounds of beef. I have 2 pounds of beef there. What would I do with the other ½ pound, right? I'm just going to use it all. So I will go ahead and add this extra lemon. I love lemon in marinades. It just really brightens everything up, and it tenderizes too. And then we're going to need 1/4 cup of either red wine vinegar or you could use balsamic vinegar. I'm using balsamic because I'm going to save the red wine vinegar for when I make the pickled onions, and I don't have that much vinegar at home. I need to add it to my grocery list. I'm also going to add 1/4 cup of olive oil, 6 garlic cloves that have been grated, and let's get 1 teaspoon of salt in here, some black pepper. Of course, the black pepper can go with the spices later on. I just added in here. And 2 tablespoons of yogurt. This is a teaspoon, but why dirty something else? I'll just measure just with my eyes, mix everything all up. I like adding the yogurt to this. It gives a little bit of a creamy aspect to the marinade, and yogurt is a really good tenderizer, so it's going to make this, the meat even softer. It's going to be really good to use. Don't skip that ingredient if you're using a less expensive cut of steak like a flank or a flap. Now we're going to add the dry spices. So we're going to do 1 teaspoon of cumin. This is ground cumin. Adds a really nice warm earthy flavor. A heaping teaspoon of ground dried coriander, 1 teaspoon of sweet paprika. Make sure you're not using the smoky one. It's really going to change the flavor. You want the sweet paprika for color, and it doesn't add that much flavor, but it just adds the right amount. Just a little bit of ground turmeric, 1/2 teaspoon, 1 nice big teaspoon of dried oregano, and some crushed red pepper flakes because we like it a little bit hot. Just a little bit. Now, traditionally, in shawarma, they add ground cardamom in here. They also add some cinnamon, cloves, sometimes allspice. And these are all flavors that if I were to put them in here, they're so strong. They add a little bit of bitterness to the marinade as well. And my kids can really spot those flavors out, and they won't enjoy it as much. So I leave it out. If you like those flavors and you want the more traditional taste, I'll leave the measurements in the description box as well as on the recipe card on the blog, and you can go ahead and put them in. You can do half and half too, just to taste it, to see if you like it or not if you've never added those flavors. They add a little bit of warmth, but again, keep in mind they do add some bitterness, and not everyone goes for that flavor unless you're really used to it. Now, a spoon is not the preferred tool to measure, to mix this up. I would rather use my hands or some tongs, but why dirty something else? I love to cook, but who likes washing dishes? Already it's smelling so good. Now I'm just gonna add the onions. You don't have to worry too much about mixing the onions in. This is good enough. And leave it aside for 30 minutes, an hour, just at room temperature, so all of the flavors can, come together and flavor the meat really well. All right, so now it's time to make the pickled onions, and I like to use red onions for this. I'm gonna thinly slice. First you cut it in half so you can get these really nice half moons. Go ahead and thinly slice the onion and put a little pot of water to boil. Okay, so you just wanna put them in the hot water for a minute. Once the water comes to a boil, just go ahead and put them in there. Turn the heat off, you don't want them to boil. It just kills that bite that they have. And then in the bowl that they're gonna stay in, you wanna add half a cup of apple cider vinegar. Add your favorite vinegar. Just because it says apple cider doesn't mean that's all you can use. You can do all red wine vinegar. But if you combine two vinegars together, then it just adds different layers of flavor. A tablespoon of sugar and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. You could throw some peppercorns in here. You can put some garlic slices in here. You could put 1 or 2 grape leaves in here. You can flavor this in so many ways. I'm just gonna keep it very simple today. And then go ahead and take the onions out of the water and put them directly into the vinegar mixture. Mix everything up. Just press them down so that way they're immersed in that vinegar. It's gonna really break them down. And then just leave them aside until everything comes to room temperature. Then you could just cover them and keep them in your fridge until you're ready to use them. They stay fresh for weeks. So I always like to serve shawarmas with a little chopped salad. I like to add cucumber, bell pepper, some tomatoes, whatever I have, parsley, a little bit of onion. You could use regular onion or scallions, whatever you like. If you want to, you can definitely throw some baby lettuce leaves in there too. And then you could either serve the shawarma on top of that if you're keeping things healthier and low carb, or you could stuff it in the pitas. I like to stuff it in the pitas. So I'm just gonna chop up this English cucumber. I love using English cucumbers because they hardly have any seeds in them. And then a refreshing bell pepper, whatever color you like. And I just like to chop everything into similar sizes. Put the bell peppers in the bowl. Then I have these little grape tomatoes. I'm just gonna cut these in half and throw them in. I have some fresh parsley leaves. I'm just gonna finely chop them. And then I'm just gonna put a little bit of this onion in here. I usually don't like to put onion in salad when I have a pickled onion on the side, but I'm just gonna put a tiny bit of this in here. It tastes good in the sandwiches. You could have a combination of different flavors. And then we always season with a little bit of salt, some dried oregano, a little bit of red wine vinegar. You can use balsamic, you can use lemon juice if that's what you prefer. Some really good quality Greek olive oil. And that's it, you just mix it all up, and just like that, the salad is ready. Like I said, you could put this over a bed of baby lettuce leaves, or you can chop the lettuce in here, and you could really add whatever you want to the salad. Scallions would be really nice in this. I don't have any right now. I use them all because I made 2 large spinach pies over the weekend, and I used up all of my scallions. But that's it, the salad is ready. The pickled onions are ready. Now it's time to make the tzatziki sauce. So traditionally, shawarmas are served with a tahini type sauce, but another thing my kids don't like is sesame paste. So I serve it either with this tzatziki, which we love. We literally can eat this with a spoon, or I make a shawarma sauce. And if you want to learn how to make the shawarma sauce that doesn't have any tahini in it, you can go and look up my chicken shawarma recipe. So I have 1 cucumber here that I've shredded in the box grater, and I just sprinkled it with some salt, and I left it in the strainer so it can release its juices, and a clove of garlic. And then I'm gonna add some sour cream. I always like to add sour cream to my tzatziki sauce. It really makes it richer. I learned this from my mom, so Try it. Makes your tzatziki extra rich and creamy. And then yogurt. I don't have Greek yogurt, so I'm just going to use regular plain full fat whole milk yogurt. That's what I'm using. You use what you got. You just mix everything up. I like to put a little bit of black pepper in this. And that's it. You could throw some dill in here. You could chop some fresh mint in here. And the sauce is ready. If you are a huge fan of tahini sauce, I do have a recipe on the blog. It's delicious. My kids don't like it, so we go with tzatziki. That's done. Now we're going to cook the meat. So now it's time to cook the meat, and it's so simple to do. If you have a cast iron skillet, put that baby over high heat until it's smoking hot, just like this. If this is going to smoke up your house, there's no other way to do it unless you have a flat plate outside and you want to do this over your grill. That's an option too. Just get it over high heat. I'm also going to put a tiny bit of olive oil in here, even though there's olive oil in the marinade, but I don't want it to stick. If I were to put the whole batch of meat in here, it's going to steam instead of get nice and caramelized. So I'm just going to do 2 batches. I'm going to do this in 2 batches. I'm going to put the onions in there too. Hear that sizzle? That is what you want to hear. And I'm going to cook the meat about 4 minutes per side. Oh my gosh, when that hits the pan, those spices warm up and it just smells so yummy. So the shawarma is ready and they smell and look amazing. Now, again, you can serve this over plain rice, like white basmati rice or a Mediterranean rice pilaf, which would be amazing. If you want to keep it low carb, serve it over cauliflower rice. If you want to serve it over a salad bowl, that would be delicious too. Or in some pita bread, which is the traditional way to do it. I like to put a little smear of tzatziki on the bottom. If you're using tahini sauce or shawarma sauce, that would be perfect. A little bit of the salad and then lots of those delicious pickled red onions and then the meat on top. If you want to finely chop some parsley for some color and freshness, you can put that on top too. It is time to take a bite, but just look at how glorious this looks. The meat just melts in your mouth. All of the flavor combinations go so well together. You get the fresh creaminess from the tzatziki, the little bite from the pickled onions. The meat is full of warm toasted flavors like the cumin and the coriander. It just is loaded with flavor. The pita and the meat literally melt in your mouth equally. That's how soft it is. I hope you guys give it a try. The recipe is on the website, dimitrasdishes.com. Head on over there to print it. Let me know what you guys think and post your recipe requests down below. I add them to my list and I get to them one by one. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me today. If you want to learn how to make chicken shawarma, click over here and I'll see you right over there. Yes, us.